So imagine this. You're playing your new Souls game, you're having the time of your life, just come upon a new boss, he's got a brilliant design, amazing moveset, really fun attacks, everything's just nice and lovely. But then you die. No problem, you think. I died, I'll just try again, but it's not that simple, is it? No, it can't be that simple, because these games aren't simply tests of skill, they're tests of patience. So you're gonna walk back to that boss fight every single time you die, and you're gonna bloody like it. But in all seriousness, I've been playing Lies of P recently, and obviously I've died quite a few times, and it got me thinking. Boss runs have been in essentially every Souls-like game I've ever played, but does anyone actually like them? They just feel perfectly crafted as a mechanic to waste your time. I want to be there learning the new moves of the boss that killed me, not running back to him. Especially when there's no enemies on the way, it just feels like a complete chore. But they must add something to the game, surely, or else why would they be there at all? And certainly not such a consistent presence in essentially every Souls game. So I spent a bit of time thinking about what boss runs actually add to the game, and I've come up with a few main points. The first and most obvious thing it adds is tension. I mean, like I've said before, boss runs suck. You don't want to experience them, so having the threat of one looming over you during the entire boss fight naturally adds quite a lot of tension to the encounter. And tension is very useful for making you feel more immersed in the game and generally just making it feel a lot more exciting to play. Another benefit they can add to the game is just another form of skill expression in the same way fighting any enemy or bosses. Of the Souls games I've played, the best example of this is in Dark Souls 1. This can be seen in fights like Seath the Scaleless and the Four Kings, where the path was so long to get back to the boss, and there were so many enemies on the route, that it basically became part of the boss itself to simply arrive at the boss without taking any damage. However, this does come with the drawback of making boss runs even longer, which can make them even more tedious if you're the type of person who only enjoys fighting the main boss. While both these reasons are clear justifications as to why a boss run may be put in the game, it still didn't seem enough to me to justify actually including them, given how much I despise them personally. But, of course, they keep returning, which made me think surely I must be missing something here, some key aspect of the game they improve by being present, or else why would so many games include them? And not just FromSoft games, but Lies of P. And that's when I realised I was working under one key assumption. The games were supposed to be fun. Okay, I know that sounds ridiculous. And I'm not suggesting that a game as a whole would be created not to be fun. I'm definitely not suggesting Souls games as a whole aren't fun. They certainly are. I enjoy them. But what I am saying is not necessarily every mechanic in the game is placed in there with the pure intention of improving the amount of fun the player has while playing the game. Now, to fully illustrate this point, I'm going to use an example, and the most obvious one to me seems to be dying. Now, nobody enjoys dying, or at least I don't. I never die to a boss and think, oh, I can't wait for the boss to be at full HP again when I return. But imagine for a moment if you couldn't die. The game would be boring, dull. There'd be no threat to anything. The point I'm trying to make here is that while dying itself isn't fun, it obviously does add something to the game that isn't necessarily fun, but it makes the product more entertaining. Now, to bring this idea back to boss runs, similar to dying, while running back to a boss isn't exactly fun, it does add to the feeling of victory when you finally defeat the boss, giving you a bigger sense of relief and accomplishment for doing it, because the task was harder to accomplish because of the boss run. So now we have three major reasons why a boss run would be included in the game: tension, skill expression, and to add to the sense of victory you feel upon finally defeating a boss. So, what do these tell us about the central question of the video? Does anyone like boss runs? Well, probably yeah. Maybe not boss runs in and of themselves. They might be annoying, or tedious, or just generally unenjoyable. But they do add a sense of enjoyment to the game overall once you defeat a boss. But that doesn't quite answer the question of if boss runs are actually overall a positive aspect of the game. And that's because that question isn't really answerable, or at least not by me. I can tell you that in my experience, I would probably enjoy these games more without boss runs. They frustrate me and honestly take more away from my experience than they add. But many others, I'm sure, play this game for the thrill of defeating a boss and feeling that sense of victory and accomplishment. And for many of those people, boss runs may, in a roundabout way, add more than they take away from the game, because they add to that sense of accomplishment you feel upon completing the task. So, to answer the central question, yes, some people do enjoy boss runs, even if not quite as directly as most other mechanics in a game. And yes, despite my infinite wisdom on this topic, I am taking the coward's way out. Because at the end of the day, it's all up to our personal experience of the game, whether we enjoy a boss run or not. Whether you completely disagree with every point I've made in this video or not, that doesn't affect your personal view of a boss run. Even if you despise the feeling you get upon beating a boss, and genuinely just simply enjoy walking forward, you enjoy a boss run, and I'm wrong. But with that, we've wrapped up the main point of the video, and it's complete. So I hope you enjoyed. This is the first time I've tried to make a video like this, so I'd appreciate any comments, whether positive or negative, to help me make better videos in the future. And most importantly, I hope you enjoyed, and I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a like, or even just comment something completely random, because it will help boost this video in the algorithm.